Once upon a time, there was a wise man who had a young apprentice. Now, his goal was to teach the apprentice everything he knew about life, and so each day he would share just little lessons to help the apprentice on his journey towards success in life. Now, one day they were walking through a forest, and the wise man stopped and he pointed out a little weed just off the path, and he asked the apprentice to pull the weed up from the ground. And the apprentice reached down and quickly pulled the weed up from the earth. He didn't think anything of it, and then they continued on their way. Now, a short while later, the wise man again stopped along the path, and he pointed to a small bush, and he asked the apprentice to pull the bush up from the ground. And the apprentice, he let out a long sigh, thinking like, what is this guy having me do, and why? And he didn't understand, but he got to work doing it, and he started pulling and pushing, and he's trying to dig with his hands, and he just couldn't get this bush up, and he gave it everything he could, and he's covered in dirt and sweat, and his hands are now bleeding a little bit, and eventually he was able to uproot the bush. And without giving it much thought, the wise man then he kind of nodded as a sign of as a sigh of approval, and then they continued down the path. And several minutes went by, and eventually, the apprentice he's finally just starting to stop sweating and catch his breath. And about that time, the wise man stops for a third time, and he points to this giant oak tree, and he told the young boy to pull the giant oak tree up from the ground, just like he had done, two times previously. And without any hesitation at all, the apprentice he looked at him with this look of disbelief, and he just said, Master, like it took everything I could to pull the bush up from the ground. There's no way that I could ever be able to do this. It's impossible. Just look at this giant oak tree. It's so much larger than I am. And the wise man then calmly, he put his hand on the apprentice's shoulder, and he said to him, this is exactly what your habits are like. It's never too late to change, but the longer you wait, the deeper the root system is, and the more difficult it will be. Now, thinking about that story real quick, what have you been putting off? Is it keeping a food journal? Is it adding in an extra workout each week? Is it cutting back on alcohol or sweets or junk food? Is it being more active, just going for more walks? We've all, myself included, we all have areas in our life that we're not executing as well as as well as we know we should be. We all have things that we have great intentions, and it's hey, we want to do this thing and we're going to do this thing, but we just haven't started. So whatever that thing is for you, my challenge to you is whatever you've been thinking about doing and the thing that you've been putting off doing, start today. And your future self will be glad you did.